All right, everybody, it has happened. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Obviously, the story was circulating all over the internet, but even though it did make some sense and even though it sounded like it was a real possibility, I'm sure that in the back of a lot of people's heads, there was the consideration that this isn't actually going to happen, right? It's too ridiculous. No, no, it's happened. Per Adam Schefter and many other sources, Philip Rivers has signed to the Indianapolis Colts practice squad. So he is now an Indianapolis Colt, and he is theoretically at least available and eligible to play against the Seahawks on Sunday. Supposedly, he looked good throwing the ball yesterday when he had his workout with the Colts. So they're going to go for it, and we really might be getting Philip Rivers this weekend. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today. Get to it and go have some fun with sports this year. So, yeah, this could happen. And by the way, let me be very clear here. This could happen. It doesn't mean that it will happen. There is a very good chance that the Colts are signing Rivers to kind of bring up to speed over the next week or two and then get him for the last few games of the year because they believe that he gives them a better chance of winning than Riley Leonard, especially if Leonard's injured, by the way, or Brett Rippon. And this week is just kind of a punt. They're just going to throw whoever out there, be it Rippon or Leonard, and just live with the results, knowing that it's probably not going to be good, but Rivers won't be ready yet. So be ready for anything. Although, at the very least, we've reduced it down to three options, right? We know that it's either going to be Rivers, it's going to be Riley Leonard, or it's going to be Brett Rippon. So Joe Flacco not part of the equation anymore. Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, none of those guys. No. So interesting for sure. It'll be very interesting to see how things go tomorrow for practice because a workout where he gets to just kind of throw the ball around is one thing, but it's a completely different thing to actually go through an NFL practice and but I mean not get hit because of course quarterbacks don't really get hit in practice, but actually have to go through an entire day's worth of a full on football practice and then be able to do it again the next day and then be able to do it again the next day and then be able to play in a game on Sunday. It is different, right? So we'll see where this goes, man. But be prepared for the possibility of Rivers. I'm not entirely convinced they're actually going to throw this guy out there when he's only been on the team for not even a week. And by the way, it's supposed to rain this weekend in Seattle, so you not only are you on the road and not only are you playing in the rain when your team is a dome team, not only are you playing one of the best defenses in the NFL, but I mean it's a perfect storm of this is going to be a complete disaster. And subjecting Riley Leonard or Brett Rippon to that is one thing, but subjecting Philip Rivers to that would be kind of mean. But that doesn't mean they won't do it. So he has been signed. It can happen. Wanted to go ahead and go over that, and we're gonna have some fun this weekend. Maybe I'll say this: if you are a fan of football, but you're not a Seahawks fan or a Colts fan, you're probably not going to tune in to watch Riley Leonard. You're probably not going to tune in to watch Brett Rippon, but you're probably going to tune in to watch Philip Rivers just to see what happens. That is a fascinating thing. First grandfather to ever play in the NFL. Uh, I imagine that he's resetting his Hall of Fame timer, by the way, doing this. So he really does not care that much about that, clearly. And it's good theater. Seahawks side of things. Let me go over a couple things from yesterday real quick that I didn't talk about. I just didn't really I didn't really have time for it, didn't really have the opportunity for it. But I do want to briefly go over a couple of things with the Seahawks about some of their injury situations. So, first of all, a little bit of good news here. I think most Seahawks fans have heard this already, but Nemhauser here with the report, saw it from a bunch of other people, and ultimately it comes from Mike McDonald. Jalen Sundell is expected to practice this week. Now, he did not specify if he would be practicing at guard or center. In fact, he seemed to very much enjoy playing coy with that. Just said, we'll see. But Jalen Sundell is expected to practice for this week. Now, will he actually get activated and play? He has been on IR for a little bit. Wouldn't shock me if there's a little bit of a ramp-up period. And this is not the game to be forcing a player that isn't 100% ready out on the field anyway. So I don't know if Sundell's coming back this week. And you definitely want to be careful with just throwing him to the Wolves in the Rams game, because that's going to be a big one. So it is a little bit dicey here. I'd love to see him play some this weekend, but maybe not the whole game, and then be ready to just hit the ground running against the Rams. Because while I do understand that there is a give and take here at center with Sundell and Oluwatimi, and both guys have strengths and weaknesses, I do get the sense that Sundell is better and that he also fits better with what we're doing. So I do think the plan is to get him back out there at center. Now, as for getting him out there at guard, which I know some people are excited for, you had this from Brady Henderson, and I also saw this echoed from Corbin. I saw it echoed from Nemhauser. Pretty much everybody who does this beat reporter stuff for the Seahawks. According to Mike McDonald, Bradford had the best game of any Seattle offensive lineman versus Atlanta based on the team's internal grading. He said Bradford, who's in his third NFL season, is probably as confident as he's been at any point in his career. And the reason why I bring this up is this does not sound like somebody that is looking to bench Anthony Bradford. This does not sound like something that somebody who is planning on dumping Bradford for a player like Jalen Sundell, who is not really a right guard anyway, is it just, I know that you're not going to just dump on a player publicly, and I know you're not going to be overly negative about one of your starters, even if you're planning on benching them, but this is relatively specific, and unless he's just plain making this up, which I don't think that he is, this sounds like somebody that thinks that Bradford is playing well. By the way, he's not alone in that, and I will say that the Bradford discussion is pretty interesting right now. There is some stuff in his defense, and I don't think that the people who are defending him are wrong. I still don't think that he's good enough to be somebody that we rely on as a starter, but I think there is something to be said for the fact that when he is good, he is actually very good. It's just his bad moments are so egregiously bad, it's hard to ignore. I get it. But I'm looking at this, and I'm just not seeing any indication that McDonald wants to take Bradford off the field. So I do think when you're talking about Jalen Sundell, you're talking about him as a center. And I do think that at the end of the day, that is going to be better for this team. But we will see how Seattle decides to play it. One other thing as well from yesterday, according to Mike McDonald, Elijah Arroyo, he's working through the injury, but there is a belief that he will probably not play this week. Now, I know people are going to say Arroyo wasn't doing anything anyway, and they're mostly correct. I'm not going to pretend that this is a big loss. However, keep in mind that right now at tight end, I mean, Barner seems like he's fine. I know he was on the injury report last week. I don't get the sense that there's a problem there. But Arroyo, now probably not playing this week at least, could miss a couple of games in theory, based on what I'm hearing. And you also have Eric Saubert. Haven't heard anything about him this week. And there are some indications from McDonald that he's not going to be back for a couple more games. So you're kind of getting down to it with your tight end depth. You're down to Nick Collerup and Brady Russell. And Collerup, the purest of the pure blocking tight end. Brady Russell doesn't really bring much to the table, I don't think. You actually tried to move him to fullback to try to get something out of him last year, really. And yeah, it's getting dicey, even though those players didn't do that much. I understand that, but you're going to get to a point where you can't run the two tight end sets that you want to run in the Kubiak offense because you just don't have enough bodies. Okay, so that is a quick roundup of some Seahawks injury news. But the big news today is Phillip Rivers back in the NFL after a 5-year sabbatical, and we may see him this weekend. Do not count him out. All right, go Hawks. Another video coming in about an hour. Much more to talk about. See you guys soon.